Moving on, we have Sasha Shyrokov. Please, did I get that? Excellent, thank you. Sasha is a software engineer at IDEXX Laboratories. He earned his MS in the computer vision field and his PhD in the human-computer interactions field from the University of New Hampshire. Sasha has been developing software for more than 20 years. He has worked on various software projects, including development of language learning tools as a freelancer, creation of a skydiving simulator as an entrepreneur, and development of the astronomer's proposal tool for Hubble and James Webb space telescopes with the Space Telescope Science Institute. Currently, Sasha is advancing technological innovation in the area of veterinary diagnostics at IDEXX Laboratories, including experimentation with augmented reality and its various applications. And I asked Sasha for his fun fact, and not only is he doing the skydiving simulation, but he actually does skydive. So God bless him. Here he is.
Thank you. I would like to highlight a side of IDEXX that may be not as well known. And as a software developer, I deal in abstractions and in directions. So as I'm doing this talk, this is what comes from my head. There is me, there is you, there is something in my head, and let's say understanding. And I'm trying to communicate that to you, right? And I hope that by doing that, you will get some understanding, right? So there is this transfer of understanding from my head to your head, right? But the goal of all of that, right, is not the understanding, is not the communication, it is decision making. At the end, you need to use this understanding to make decisions. And the example that I showed could easily be applied to a sales representative from IDEXX saying, we have this instrument, please buy it. And they want a practice manager to say, yeah, it's great for me too, I want it. Or it could be a veterinary doctor looking at the analysis and says, oh, I see the result of test. Pet owner, you need to do these kind of things. And pet owner needs to decide whether to buy or give medicine, right? So, but how does it apply to me? Why am I talking about it? Well, as a software developer, I was trying to talk to computers, right? And when my one-year-old son will grow up to be able to ask me, Daddy, what are you doing? I'm going to say, I'm making dreams come true. If customer comes to me and says, I want something, I can make it happen. That's what I'm trained to do, right? But if you look closer to what I actually do, right, what is it? I stare at that. I write the code, I read the code, and the problem with this is that it's a very far cry from what all of us evolved to look at, right? So for me, it means that part of my brain is not really engaged as part of my job. And if it doesn't bother you, it's okay, but it bothers me, right? And you can say, Sasha, it's your own problem. You chose a profession. Let's deal with it. But that's true for other things as well, not just my profession. So if you take this communication as an example, right, we are using technology. And if you come to me and say, this is my dream or this is my problem, and I try to come up with a solution, I can give you something like this. Ba-bam, solution. And you're like, what? Right? You can stare at it and maybe you understand. It's a toaster. You wanted a toast. Now give me money and we'll manufacture those. Right? So there are different ways we can do these things. And right now we are getting to the point in the last few years where our technology, and both in hardware and software, is very amazing. You can do many things. Like we have these tools you put on your head and you can see things. Or software that allows you to do rapid prototyping very quickly. For example, at IDEXX, it took me a very short time to come up on my old cell phone. You look through it, and you see a virtual instrument next to a real one, and you can interact with it. And this is amazing, because now you don't need a real instrument anymore, right? Only when you actually use them. Or you can have devices that you can place those virtual things anywhere in the room. It's all available. Or you can take the same technologies, the same things that you wrote for these other devices, and put them in a virtual reality or mixed reality and utilize it. It allows a very different way of interaction than text-based interactions, right? Not everything is easy, though. And I would like to highlight the fact by giving you an example. I went for a run with my father-in-law, and you can look at it. Oh, that's a visual information. So what? Right? Tell us where it was. It was 3 hours away from here. People who run say, I don't really want to know that. I want to know, did you actually walk as opposed to run, right? But I want to say, when I came back after the run, I saw geese grazing around. And it has nothing to do with the run itself, right? But there is different pieces of information attached to an event. And we need to pick and choose what is it that we want to do to create impact that we want. And we have tools. And some are good, some are bad. So we have to be smart about how we select our tools. This is an example of bad tools, by the way. Don't do that. And that's what I want to highlight. And at IDEXX, we work at it as well as I believe in many other companies. What to do with all that technology right now? And this is it. Questions, please.
Have you considered the possibility that we are all living inside someone's computer simulation? And if you have considered that, how plausible is that to you?
As part of software development, you always draw boundaries, right? Because you try to simplify things. Things are complex as they are, right? So you try to cut things, and questions like that pose, like, should I step out of the box and think about what's out there? And does it really matter? And the reason why I'm saying, does it really matter, is not, it's about what kind of decisions should I be making, or what will change in my life? Should I switch to fewer nutrients or fewer calories now that I know I'm in simulation, or will I eat more because of that, right? How does it affect you? So I didn't answer the question.
So when AI gets truly intelligent, what do you think it's going to give us as advice?
That's a wonderful question. I think regardless of what it gives us, we need to ask the question, will we listen to it? Right, but we will find out soon enough, maybe. That's the best I can come up for right now.
Do you have a specific example of the VR picture you had from IDEXX? What is happening there? Like, is it visualizing the testing that you're doing with the animals? Is it doing a big cell? What's going on?
So in the examples that I shown, people interact with instruments. So instead of interacting with a real instrument, you get to interact with a virtual one. And this allows you to do things like training, right? Or work with instruments that are ready yet, right? The ones that you cannot put in a clinic, but you can train people, and that affects people outside the IDEXX and inside the IDEXX. For example, you can come up with training scenarios for people who manufacture those instruments. So things of that nature. And that's what was people interacting with the virtual instrument.
So if you have somebody that was practicing, say, surgery, would the program react to what they were doing, or is it just a set program that runs and they just have to follow it?
Absolutely, it would react. So it depends on how you write the program, but even right now, we already have simulations for surgeons, right, that react to what you're doing. If you cut the wrong thing,
Patient's going to die on you.
It's a virtual patient, but yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it creates a very intense psychological and emotional response from people, even though everybody knows it's not real. But people, especially in virtual reality, some people cannot step over the cliff, even though they know the floor is there.
If the AI entity that she was talking about does happen, will it be able to communicate with us effectively? And will we be able to be receptive to it?
I would hope so. Right. Basically, the presentation I was doing here, right, is about how do we communicate effectively. We know that we have 8,000 times more visual receptors than audio receptors, right? So most likely, the interaction must have some visual aspect to it. And there is no reason that there cannot be transformation from any type of information to what is useful for us. So yes. One more minute.
What was the Oh my gosh. What was the process of developing the software and how long did it take you?
So examples that I showed in the very first picture, few days of non-work related activity, meaning I was doing my regular time job and in a few days I came up with that thing. Because the tools, it's not like I wrote it from scratch. And that's the point, that we have technology that you drag and drop, you put things together and voila, you have things running. And now the question is not so much how do you do it, but what is it that you want to do? What is the point that you want to get across? Right? What kind of decision making that you want to facilitate and how do you make it that it actually helps it as opposed to, oh, it's so cool, and you forgot what you wanted to do. Right? Thank you very much.